Good afternoon. This is Vicki Partlow, and this is my Module 14 case study, Copyright and the Computer, Regulations Governing Technology. Section 1, at a glance, what do we know? Well, the case study takes place at St. Regis School, which is a K-8 school located in a small rural town about 25 miles away from a major city. The school librarian, Miss Lynn, copied and distributed copyrighted computer software to the teachers of St. Regis. Miss Brandon, a new teacher to St. Regis, refused the copies of the software due to copyright infringement and made the school principal, Mr. Sample, aware of the copied software. And Miss Lynn, despite understanding about copyright infringement, although I'm assuming she understands about copyright infringement considering she's a school media specialist or a library media specialist, she does not feel that she's doing anything illegal because it is saving the school money. Section 2, legal and ethical issues. Most public schools have policies and procedures that outline the use of computer software. And although schools are massively under budget and they are looking for cost-cutting ways to save money, violation of this copyright law is not an ethical way to provide that extra funding. In the case of St. Regis School, the librarian did not feel it hurt anyone if she made copies of the software that they had ordered. She also had the support of several teachers in the school as well as a member of the PTA. And as a librarian, Ms. Lynn should understand that violating the copyright law of 1976 is a federal crime. It is important when purchasing computer software that you read the copyright and licensing regulations found within the software itself. Ms. Lynn felt that since St. Regis was such a small school, that the likelihood of discovery would be minimal and therefore worth the risk of saving the school money by copying the software. Despite funding issues that many schools face, copying the computer software without permission from the company is, of course, a breach of contract. When you purchase something, especially computer software, you're saying that you abide by the laws that regulate that purchase. And when software is copied without licensing, then the company who owns the copyright is hurt because they will not be receiving, that revenue from the copied software. So Section 3, in a nutshell, what exactly happened? To save the school money, the school librarian, at the request of several teachers, copied licensed computer software illegally and distributed it to the teachers of St. Regis School. So Section 4, relevant facts, asking the questions. So the players in this case study was Mrs. Lynn, who is a school librarian who appears to have been at the school for a long time. Mrs. Brandon, who is a first-year teacher at St. Regis but has previous teaching experience. Mr. Sample, he's the school principal, and this is going into his 4th year at St. Regis. The teachers of St. Regis, many of these teachers have lived in the area for a long time and have grown up in the community. The PTA members, which are made up of parents whose children attend the school, the school board, and the students. What we don't know about the people is if the school or Miss Lynn had done anything similar in the past when she has purchased computer software. If all the members of the PTA are aware that computer software was being copied, or was it only the president who was helping out Miss Lynn? Is there an acceptable use policy within the school district? And are the teachers and members of the PTA aware that copying software could result in a violation of federal law and subject to possible criminal charges? The relevant places, of course, we have St. Regis School, which is a small rural school with approximately 420 students, and I would say approximately 20 teachers or so. It's made up of kindergarten through 8th grade. There are 2 special education teachers, as well as the library media specialist who also serves as the computer technology teacher. There's a new computer lab that was bought and paid for through the funding efforts of the PTA. There are 20 computers for students housed in the area adjacent to the library, and that teachers also have single-use computers in their classroom. What we don't know is actually the actual physical condition of the school and the classrooms, the number of computers that are housed in each individual classroom, which teachers do not use a computer classroom at all, and were they ones who were asking for the computer software to be copied? the community feeling on the school itself. How does the community view the school of St. Regis? Again, this is a small school. The actual high school students are bused into the city to attend school there. There are 2 special ed teachers, one who teaches the K through 4 population and another who serves the 5th to 8th grade students. There's a library media specialist who also is a computer technologies teacher. And I am going to assume that St. Regis School is a public school just from the description in the case study. What is unknown to us is what software was purchased and what were the conditions of that purchase, because there is some computer software out there that will allow you to make copies. Did they purchase any additional licensing for use of this software on multiple computers? So, if they bought a license for 20 computers only, or was there more computers to be allowed under the license? Also, what other staff make up this school environment? The teachers, of course, but there's also, other people that help make a school run. What curriculum is being used in the school, and do they offer any kind of additional classes, such as a foreign language class, vocational learning? These classes are very important to students and rely heavily on a lot of computer access. So section 5, review of the facts and important questions. So could the conflict, the situation, the decision be damaging to stakeholders or to the community? Yes. Copyright infringement has more specific consequences associated with illegally copying computer software. If caught, violators face heavy fines and possible unemployment. What individuals and groups have an important stake in this outcome? Of course, Miss Lynn, Mr. Sample, and Miss Brandon, the entire school community, as well as PTA members and the school board. Have all the relevant stakeholders been consulted? No. The PTA members have not been apprised of the copied software, and neither has the school board. The one PTA member, the president who is helping Miss Lynn copy the software, might not be aware that this is, in fact, a violation of federal law. Can I learn more about the situation? Yes, researching more about copyright infringement, violations that have occurred in educational fields, and ways that the school can obtain more software for student use without illegally obtaining it. Do I know enough to make a decision? Despite not having some information pertaining to the case, I do feel a decision can be made. And in summary, the overwhelming facts in this case boil down to just one thing. It's a violation of copyright infringement. Although the information presented in the case study really gave us a brief version of what occurred at St. Regis School, the fact of the matter is that computer software that was purchased for the school was then illegally copied onto blank CDs and distributed to teachers within the school. This could ultimately come back on the school district in the form of fines that could hurt the school financially. It can also result in the district firing the librarian for making the copies and the principal for not putting a stop to it. The copyright infringement can also cause issues for teachers who accepted the illegal copies and installed them on their computers. Section 6, options and consequences. Option number 1, of course, is no action. Mr. Sample can overlook the violation of federal law and play the odds that no one would ever find out about the copied software, and therefore save the school some money in not having to purchase individual copies for teachers or licenses. Option 2, a formal meeting with Miss Lynn. He can call for a formal meeting with the school librarian and discuss with her the consequences of her actions and require her to retrieve all the copied software and destroy the disks. If she refuses to do so, then action would be taken against her for insubordination. And option 3, Mr. Sample can request that the school board review the case and make a determination on how they want to proceed. This leaves him without the responsibility of having to possibly reprimand his employees and resolve some of any wrongdoing because he did report it to the school board, or maybe not. He could still be accused of wrongdoing as if they were caught violating the copyright. Some strategies I had was to have Miss Lynn research the amount of money it would cost to purchase additional licenses of the software and present that cost to the PTA and or the school board to be considered in the next budget. Strategy 2 would have Mr. Sample determine if there is an acceptable use policy with the school. It's a very small school district, it appears, and so they might not even have an acceptable use policy. But if they do, review it with the teachers and staff so they understand the implications of violating the policy. And strategy 3, set up a meeting with the PTA president and talk with her about how copying the computer software was a copyright violation. Discuss with her other ways that the school could save money and therefore help increase the revenue needed for more computer software. Section 7, the pros and cons. Option 1, no action. The pro of this, it would save the school money. All the students would have access to the software, whether in the computer lab or in the classroom. Teachers would not be upset with Mr. Sample if he went along with the scheme. Cons, this is a violation of federal law. If caught, the school district and all involved could face federal charges, and it sets a precedent that the administration will overlook violations of the law. So for option 2, keeping it in-house, so to speak, it stays within the compliance of the law, does not require the school board to become involved. Miss Lynn could possibly just get a verbal reprimand not to copy software again and not a formal written reprimand that might be placed in her file. Cons, that the staff might be upset that the software was taken away. The relationship between Miss Lynn and Miss Brandon would become strained if it's not already. And students would not have access to the software unless they're in the computer lab. And the third option, taking it to the school board, takes the responsibility out of the principal's hands and leaves the school board to make the decision. It enlightens the school board to the struggles of keeping up with technology in the 21st century. Cons, teachers might not look favorably upon a principal, thinking that he might have snitched on a member of the faculty who has been there with the school longer than he has. Will definitely strain relationships even further between Miss Brandon and other members of the staff, and it could result in Miss Lynn being fired from her position. Section 8, the best option, I would think would be option 2. The principal Samples ultimately has a duty to make sure that his faculty and staff abide by policies and procedures set forth through the school board, as well as comply with state and federal guidelines. But as a school leader, he also wants to make sure that he also takes into consideration of the needs of his students. How option 2 meets the standards is that standard 2 of the National Educational Leadership Preparation Standards specifically outlines ethics and professional norms for building leaders. It is Mr. Sample's responsibility as a building leader to demonstrate and model ethical behavior. And Section 9, my plan of action. Step 1, he would have Ms. Lyon collect all the copyrighted infringed CDs from teachers and destroy them. Step 2, he would talk to the school board to determine if there is an acceptable use policy. If so, he'll have a staff meeting in which acceptable use policy is reviewed, as well as laws pertaining to copyright infringement. If not, he will discuss with the members of the school board the importance of having such a policy for staff, students, and parents so they can understand how technology is to be used appropriately in the schools. Step 3, have Miss Lynn research the amount of money needed to procure additional licenses or software for the copied CDs, because apparently, teachers really want this software on their individual computers in their classroom. Step 4, he's to present to the school board the additional amount of money needed to provide the teachers what they need in order to have the software to advance our student achievement. If the school board refuses, he can also have a plan of action to present to the PTA and look and see if there's any additional fundraising that can be done in order to gather those extra funds. And lastly, this is a quote that I use often with my 16-year-old. But while we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose the consequence of our actions. I definitely believe in that. We can do whatever we want, but we're going to have to, reap what we sow, so to speak. You have to accept that if you make a wrong choice, that there is a consequence for that wrong choice.